This is the iPhone 11, and in 2025 is currently the oldest iPhone is still supported. But what is it like to use in day-to-day life? Well, that's what we're going to be finding out in today's Day in the Life, where I'm going to be putting the iPhone 11 through its paces. We'll be testing out the performance, the cameras, the display, the software, and the battery life to see if it's really worth considering the iPhone 11 in 2025. So it's currently 9:13, our battery percentage is 100%. Let's get to this Day in the Life. It's currently 10:12 and our battery percentage is at 88%. Let's talk about the display on the iPhone 11. It's a 6.1-inch LCD display, and in fact, the iPhone 11 was one of the last iPhones to have an LCD display. The last one was the iPhone SE. And honestly, it's not great in 2025. Compared to newer iPhones and even budget Android phones in 2025, the limited contrast ratio just makes content look pretty dull. While some people might not notice it, there are more areas where the iPhone 11's display doesn't hold up as well. It's got a barely HD resolution, a 60Hz refresh rate, and a brightness of 625 nits. So altogether, the display on the iPhone 11 is pretty average. This is a pretty old display that doesn't have much of the modern technology you can expect from even a budget phone today. So altogether, the display on the iPhone 11 deserves a B- grade. Now 10:40, our battery percentage is now at 79%. Now I'm gonna head off and prepare for a Bible study, but let's get going now. Alright, so it's now 1:18, our battery percentage is now at 60%. Let's have a chat about the software features and design of the iPhone 11. Now the iPhone 11 is the oldest iPhone that's still getting iOS 26, which is actually pretty impressive for a phone from 2019. And if you're like me and decided to try out the iOS 26 beta for yourself, well, there's a lot of cool things that Apple's bringing to the new iPhones. And there's going to be a lot of cool features being implemented into the final version. But because iOS 26 is still in beta, there's still a lot of things that are half-baked or not quite fully fleshed out. A few apps do crash, and a battery life hasn't been optimized either. It just doesn't feel quite ready for daily use. And if you do want to go back to iOS 18, it's pretty hard. And honestly, it's been the main reason why I haven't tried out iOS 26. But I did come across this tool called Dr. Phone from Wondershare, which is a system repair tool that allows you to downgrade or upgrade any software operating system. So even though I was using iOS 26, I managed to get it all the way back to iOS 18 without having to jailbreak or use iTunes on the iPhone 11. And honestly, the process is super easy. I just backed up my phone, connected to my laptop, selected the version that I wanted, iOS 18, and that's it. Honestly, the whole process from downloading, installing Wondershare, and putting iOS 18 back onto my phone took about half an hour. No data loss, no weird errors, and no stress. This came in super clutch because I wanted to make sure that I get a realistic day-in-the-life usage out of the iPhone 11, and using iOS 26 wouldn't be really realistic, since it has a few bugs and errors that are not optimized for the iPhone 11. Dr. Phone also fixes over 150 common iOS issues, like boot loops and errors, so it's not just for downgrading. If you've upgraded to the iOS 26 beta and want to go back to something more stable, you can check the link in my description to check out Wondershare for yourself and get your phone back running on a stable version. Now features-wise, the iPhone 11 features Face ID. It's only 4G, so there's no 5G connectivity, but it does have some really nice speakers and the haptic engine feels solid. And on the design side, it's made out of metal and glass, which feels pretty premium to the touch. And with the curved body, it's actually quite ergonomic to hold. It has IP68 water and dust resistance, so you don't have to worry about putting in some water. And my only complaint is that it has thick bezels. So altogether, the features, software, and design of the iPhone 11 deserves a solid B grade. You're getting support for the latest operating system until next year, and you're also getting some pretty premium features that you can expect of any flagship phone. It just looks pretty old, only has 4G capability, and overall doesn't have too much future support. Anyways, time to grab some lunch and carry on with this Day in the Life.
Eddie as well.
I'm really
Yeah. We have quick names.
explaining it.
Oh.
What do I do? And we were just like, hi! I was watching the conference vlog and it was so funny, like when it was us at the table eating.
Alright, so it's now 3:10, our battery percentage is now 41%. Now let's talk about the performance on the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 is equipped with the A13 Bionic chipset, along with 4GB of RAM. And in 2025, everything is actually pretty smooth on this phone still. It isn't the most powerful, obviously, but for day-to-day tasks and light to medium usage, everything runs really smoothly and apps launch pretty quickly. Now, with the 4GB RAM, it is a bit of a bottleneck. So if you are trying to launch apps that you haven't used in a while, well, typically most of the time they will reload, but honestly, it isn't too bad. There are a couple of stutters here and there, but overall, the performance has been pretty smooth. When it comes to pushing the iPhone 11 a bit further, such as video calling and using the phone for other tasks, it does warm up quite a bit. And if you do a bit of gaming, it will also warm up quite a bit as well, but it doesn't get too hot overall. Altogether, the performance on the iPhone 11 is still pretty solid even in 2025 and deserves a B grade. Anyway, back to playing some more card games.
Forget it. The
Yeah,
greatest
but
was
It's just really technical.
Alright, it's now 4:09. Our battery percentage is at 38%. Now let's take a look at the cameras on the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 was the first iPhone to incorporate the ultra-wide lens, and it's a 12-megapixel ultra-wide lens combined with the regular 12-megapixel main wide camera and a 12-megapixel selfie camera. So let's take a few photos and see how the iPhone 11 holds up. I've got my friend Joe with me. Let's take a few photos. Starting off with the main camera, we get some decent shots with good dynamic range, decent sharpness and color. However, there is quite a bit of noise in the darker areas, even with a decent amount of light coming in. On the ultra-wide lens, photos have a more limited dynamic range and are overall softer. Sharpness starts to crumble quite a bit, especially with less lighting. On the selfie camera, the story is the same with the ultra-wide, requiring more light to get decent photos. Now video-wise, the iPhone 11 can shoot up to 4K 60 and video quality looks pretty good. As with most iPhones, video quality performance is a pretty high priority, and with optical image stabilization on the main lens, everything looks pretty sharp. And this is what it looks like on the ultra-wide lens. The ultra-wide lens is pretty wide, especially compared to other Android manufacturers. iPhones always go for that wider perspective, so it's pretty nice for showing the environment around you. So altogether, the iPhone 11 takes some pretty decent photos in 2025, but really compared to a lot of budget and mid-range phones these days, it really is on par or maybe a little less in quality, since it has pretty small sensors and the technology running behind these cameras and the processing is pretty old school. But you are getting really good video quality, so altogether, the cameras on the iPhone 11 deserve a B- grade. Right, now gotta go to the post office to grab this parcel and then head home. Let's go now. Okay, so it's now 7:48, our battery percentage is at 8%, and I had a few glitches with this phone, so I actually did charge it up a little bit, but it does seem like with all of these older phones that sometimes when the battery gets below 10%, these phones do play up a little bit. The battery health on this phone is actually at 90%, so it hasn't degraded that much, but it is still an older phone. Now, let's take a look at the battery usage to see how the iPhone 11 did throughout the day. And at 7:48 with 8%, we have a screen on time of 4 hours and 16 minutes. Now, it's not really 8% because I did charge it up a little bit, so I'm going to say that at 7:49, it's about 1%. And for a phone of this age and this battery health, I'll say that the iPhone 11 deserves a B grade. Now, do keep in mind that obviously if you are getting a second-hand phone, battery healths are going to be all over the place, so if you are getting an iPhone 11 with a battery health lower than 90%, I'll recommend getting it replaced so you can get better battery life and also more longevity. So let's wrap up my thoughts about the iPhone 11 in 2025. Honestly, this phone has been pretty decent to use. Going back to the iPhone 11 doesn't feel like I'm using an ancient brick. And because it's up to date with software, it means I can use all the apps that I normally use on my newer phone. The performance features and software are pretty decent. The cameras, the battery life, and the display are alright. But at the price you can find this phone for, it provides some good value for some people who are looking for the iPhone experience for cheap. So altogether, the iPhone 11 gets a final score of a B-, 68 out of 100. So not a bad grade for a phone that's about 6 years old. Alright, so that wraps up this video. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.